If you've ever had to use a checkbox within your website, you've probably noticed how ugly and uncustomizable the regular HTML checkboxes are. That is why today we're going to learn how to make your own custom really nice checkboxes from scratch using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And let's begin. So to begin, we're going to start by adding some HTML, and we're simply going to add a div, and we're going to make the ID checkbox and the class also checkbox. And finally, we're going to set the onClick to a function name called checkbox click. And really, we're not going to be using this right now, but we're going to be using it later on when we get into the CSS and the JavaScript. And actually, the next step is to start working on the CSS. So first, we're going to add a selector, kind of like a share selector for both checkbox and checkbox ticked, which is another class. So checkbox represents this checkbox right here. Checkbox ticked, we don't have anything that follows that class, but we will soon. So then we're just going to add a border, a width, and a height, just to kind of get it looking, like a square. Then we're going to add some transitions, and we're going to round the border a little bit, just to make it look extra nice. Alright, then we're going to add a section for the checkbox ticked by itself, because remember, everything in here is shared by both the checkbox and checkbox ticked, but we also want the checkbox ticked to have its own different values so that it can be different, because this is the other state that we're gonna use. This is how our checkbox is gonna be represented when it's ticked. And so we just add some background color, a box shadow, and a transform. So for now, everything is set, but there isn't really anything going on to set this. Right, so we're going to have to go into the JavaScript. And to begin with, we're going to set some variables. We're going to create a variable called checkbox, and this is when we're using the ID. Just how here we're using the class, here we're using the ID to get the checkbox div right here. Then we're going to create a variable right here to store our final value, whether the checkbox is checked or not. Then we're going to make the checkbox click function, which is going to activate every time we click on the checkbox. And to begin with, we're just going to set the checkbox value to the opposite of the checkbox value. So it starts right here at false. First time you click it, it gets set to true. Next time, it gets set to false. So it's kind of like a toggle. Then we're going to remove any possible classes that we may have on here on the div. That is to ensure that we don't have any duplicate classes, or to make sure that it's not one class when it should be the other, things like that. And so then we just remove checkbox and checkbox ticked. Then we're going to check the checkbox value, and if it is true, then we're going to add the checkbox ticked class right back to the checkbox. Otherwise, we're going to add just the regular checkbox class. And as you can see already, just with this code, if we click it, it actually activates, and if we click it again, it deactivates. But we can go one step further, and we can actually print out the checkbox value, and when it's activated, it prints out true, and when it's disabled, it prints out false. And that is it for today. Let me know if you learned anything. Let me know if you found it interesting, and if you have any suggestions, and I'll see you in the next one.